Друзья, приветствую всех на моем канале. Ну что, вас ждет очередная крутейшая книга, написанная на живом английском языке. Книга очень интересная, захватывающая, она вас захватит и гарантирован рост понимания на слух и зрительно текста. Ну, коротко так, давайте без спойлеров. История о парне, кто не читал книгу, кто не знает. История о парне, который, ну, скажем так, глупенький в кавычках. Ну, не просто глупенький, он как бы, по-моему, там инвалид даже. Давно читал ее, честно говоря, не знаю, как это назвать. Но, в общем, он отсталый в развитии, и ему делают операцию, и он становится, растет в интеллекте, начинает понимать, что вокруг него происходило. Ну, книга очень интересная, о крутой трансформации. Понятно, что это художественный вымысел, что... и так далее, но книга, она цепляет, она пропитана какими-то межличностными интересными отношениями, живыми эмоциями между людьми в семье и так далее. Интереснейшая книга, она вас захватит, рост понимания вами английского обеспечен. Друзья, не знаю, почему она так не особо популярна, то есть, ну вот «Маленький принц» там или «Гарри Поттер», там в Яндексе много всяких роликов, уроков Робинзон Крузо, но сейчас перечислять не буду, но она не самая популярная, хотя по мне книга точно не уступает в интересности и в живости, и красочности, то есть своих образов, она точно западет вам в душу, возможно, вы захотите ее перечитать и не один раз, и точно она оставит свой отпечаток в вас. И в плане запоминания новых слов, образов и вообще для общего развития. Чарли, как вы поняли, глупенький главный герой. Соответственно, в книге он пишет с ошибками поначалу, до того, как измениться. И Яндекс.Перевод где-то корявенько перевел. Ну, не пугайтесь, ничего страшного. На уровне B1, B2 вы легко переведете, из контекста все будет понятно. Даже если вы прям начинающий, можете пробовать читать. Если где-то что-то будет прям совсем там непонятно, хотя я сомневаюсь в этом, ну, можете догуглить чуток. Хотя я думаю, что все будет прекрасно понятно. Ну что, друзья, приятного вам путешествия. Да, и хотел попросить, если найдете где-то в Ютубе эту книгу, или там ролик вот подобный моему с этой книгой, пожалуйста, поделитесь или напишите в комментариях об этом. Что вы здесь увидите? Вас ждет аудиокнига с текстом у вас перед глазами. Для удобства вам там буквально пальчиком будут водить, то есть обведен будет текст, на каком моменте она читается. Плюс и также перевод будет присутствовать. Будет много просмотров. Сделаем, разберем ее более детально, может я озвучу своим голосом, еще что-то. Вот. Ну, так для затравочки, пока что 40-минутный ролик. Диктор живо очень говорит, так что информации в нем немало. Наслаждайтесь. Всех обнял. Приятного прослушивания.
Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Kиз, narrated by Jeff Woodman.
Progress Report 1, March 3. Dr. Strauss says I should write down what I think and remember and everything that happens to me from now on. I don't know why, but he says it's important, so they'll see if they can use me. I hope they use me, because Miss Kinnian says maybe they can make me smart. I want to be smart. My name is Charlie Gordon. I work in Donner's Bakery, where Mr. Donner gives me $11 a week and bread or cake if I want. I'm 32 years old, and next month is my birthday. I told Dr. Strauss and Professor Niemer I can't write good, but he says it don't matter. He says I should write just like I talk, and like I write compositions in Miss Kinnian's class at the Beekman College Center for Retarded Adults, where I go to learn 3 times a week on my time off. Dr. Strauss says to write a lot, everything I think and everything that happens to me, but I can't think anymore because I have nothing to write, so I will close for today. Yours truly, Charlie Gordon. Progress Report 2, March 4. I had a test today. I think I failed it, and I think maybe now they won't use me. What happened is, I went to Professor Niemer's office on my lunchtime like they said, and his secretary took me to a place that said Psych Department on the door, with a long hall and a lot of little rooms with only a desk and chairs. And a nice man was in one of the rooms, and he had some white cards with ink spilled all over them. He said, "Sit down, Charlie, and make yourself comfortable and relax. He had a white coat like a doctor, but I don't think he was no doctor because he didn't tell me to open my mouth and say ah. All he had was those white cards. His name is Bert. I forgot his last name because I don't remember so good. I didn't know what he was going to do, and I was holding on tight to the chair like sometimes when I go to a dentist. Only Bert ain't no dentist neither, but he kept telling me to relax, and that gets me scared because it always means it's gonna hurt. So Bert said, "Charlie, what do you see on this card?" I saw the spilled ink, and I was very scared even though I got my rabbit's foot in my pocket, because when I was a kid, I always failed tests in school, and I spilled ink too. I told Bert I saw ink spilled on a white card. Bert said yes, and he smiled, and that made me feel good. He kept turning all the cards, and I told him, somebody spilled ink on all of them, red and black. I thought, that was an easy test. But when I got up to go, Bert stopped me and said, "Now sit down, Charlie. We're not through yet. There's more we gotta do with these cards." I didn't understand about it, but I remember Dr. Strauss said do anything the tester telled me, even if it don't make no sense, because that's testing. I don't remember so good what Bert said, but I remember he wanted me to say what was in the ink. I didn't see nothing in the ink, but Bert said there was pictures there. I couldn't see no pictures. I really tried to see. I holded the card up close and then far away. Then I said, if I had my eyeglasses, I could probably see better. I usually only wear my eyeglasses in the movies or to watch TV, but I said, maybe they will help me see the pictures in the ink. I put them on and I said, now, let me see the card again. I bet I find it now. I tried hard, but I still couldn't find the pictures. I only saw the ink. I told Bert, maybe I need new glasses. He wrote something down on a paper, and I got scared of failing the test. So I told him it was a very nice picture of ink with pretty points all around the edges. But he shook his head, so that wasn't it neither. I asked him if other people saw things in the ink, and he said yes, they imagined pictures in the ink blot. He told me the ink on the card was called ink blot. Bert is very nice, and he talks slow, like Miss Kinnian does in her class, where I go to learn reading for slow adults. He explained me it was a raw shock test. He said people see things in the ink. I said, show me where. He didn't show me. He just kept saying, think. Imagine there's something on the card. I told him, I imagine a ink blot. He shook his head, so that wasn't right either. He said, what does it remind you of? Pretend it's something. I closed my eyes for a long time to pretend, and then I said, I pretend a bottle of ink spilled all over a white card, and that's when the point on his pencil broke, and then we got up and went out. I don't think I passed the raw shock test. Third Progress Report, March 5. Dr. Strauss and Professor Niemer say it don't matter about the ink on the cards. I told them I didn't spill the ink on them, and I couldn't see anything in the ink. They said maybe they'll still use me. I told Dr. Strauss that Miss Kinnian never gave me tests like that, only writing and reading. He said Miss Kinnian told him I was her bestest pupil in the Beekman School for Retarded Adults, and I tried the hardest because I really wanted to learn. I wanted it more even than people who are smarter even than me. Dr. Strauss asked me, "How come you went to the Beekman School all by yourself, Charlie? How did you find out about it?" I said, "I don't remember." Professor Niemer said, "But why did you want to learn to read and spell in the first place?" I told him, because all my life I wanted to be smart and not dumb, and my mom always told me to try and learn, just like Miss Kinnian tells me. But it's very hard to be smart, and even when I learn something in Miss Kinnian's class at the school, I forget a lot. Dr. Strauss wrote some things on a piece of paper, and Professor Niemer talked to me very serious. He said, "You know, Charlie, we're not sure how this experiment will work on people, because we only tried it up to now on animals." I said, "That's what Miss Kinnian told me, but I don't even care if it hurts or anything, because I'm strong and I'll work hard. I want to get smart if they'll let me. They said they got to get permission from my family, but my Uncle Herman, who used to take care of me, is dead, and I don't remember about my family. I didn't see my mother or father or my little sister Norma for a long, long, long time. Maybe they're dead, too. Dr. Strauss asked me where they used to live. I think in Brooklyn. He said they'll see if maybe they can find them. I hope I don't have to write too much of these progress reports, because it takes a long time and I get to sleep very late and I'm tired at work in the morning. Gimpy hollered at me because I dropped a tray full of rolls I was carrying over to the oven. They got dirty, and he had to wipe them off before he put them in to bake. Gimpy hollers at me all the time when I do something wrong, but he really likes me because he's my friend. Boy, if I get smart, won't he be surprised? Progress Report 4. March 6. I had more crazy tests today in case they use me. That same place, but a different little testing room. The nice lady who gave it to me told me the name, and I asked her, "How do you spell it, so I can put it down right in my progress report?" Thematic apperception test. I don't know the first 2 words, but I know what test means. You gotta pass it, or you get bad marks. This test looked easy because I could see the pictures. Only this time, she didn't want me to tell what I saw in the pictures. That mixed me up. I told her, "Yesterday Bert said I should tell what I saw in the ink." She said that don't make a difference because this test is something else. Now you got to make up stories about the people in the pictures. I said, "How can I tell stories about people I don't know?" She said, "Make believe." But I told her, that's lies. I never tell lies anymore, because when I was a kid, I made lies and I always got hit. I got a picture in my wallet of me and Norma with Uncle Herman, who got me the job to be janitor at Donner's Bakery before he died. I said I could make stories about them because I lived with Uncle Herman a long time, but the lady didn't want to hear about them. She said this test and the other one, the raw shock, was for getting personality. I laughed. I told her, "How can you get that thing from cards that somebody spilled ink on and photos of people you don't even know?" She looked angry and took the pictures away. I don't care. I guess I failed that test too. Then I drawed some pictures for her, but I don't draw so good. Later, the other tester, Bert, in the white coat, came back. His name is Bert Selden, and he took me to a different place on the same 4th floor in the Beekman University that said Psychology Laboratory on the door. Bert said psychology means minds, and laboratory means a place where they make experiments. I thought he meant like where they made the chewing gum, but now I think it's puzzles and games because that's what we did. I couldn't work the puzzles so good because it was all broke and the pieces couldn't fit in the holes. One game was a paper with lines in all directions and lots of boxes. On one side it said start, and on the other end it said finish. He told me that game was amazed, and I should take the pencil and go from where it said start to where it said finish without crossing over any of the lines. I didn't understand the amazed, and we used up a lot of papers. Then Bert said, "Look, I'll show you something. Let's go to the experimental lab. Maybe you'll get the idea." We went up to the 5th floor, to another room with lots of cages and animals. They had monkeys and some mouses. It had a funny smell like old garbage. And there was other people in white coats playing with the animals, so I thought it was like a pet store, but there wasn't no customers. Bert took a white mouse out of the cage and showed him to me. Bert said, "That's Algernon, and he can do this amazed very good." I told him, "You show me how he does that." Well, do you know, he put Algernon in a box, like a big table, with a lot of twists and turns, like all kinds of walls, and a start and a finish like the paper had. Only there was a screen over the big table. And Bert took out his clock and lifted up a sliding door and said, "Let's go, Algernon." And the mouse sniffed 2 or 3 times and started to run. First, he ran down one long row, and then, when he saw he couldn't go no more, he came back where he started from, and he just stood there a minute, wiggling his whiskers. Then he went off in the other direction and started to run again. It was just like he was doing the same thing Bert wanted me to do with the lines on the paper. I was laughing because I thought it was going to be a hard thing for a mouse to do. But then Algernon kept going all the way through that thing, all the right ways, till he came out where it said finish, and he made a squeak. Bert says that means he was happy because he did the thing right. "Boy," I said, "that's a smart mouse." Bert said, "Would you like to race against Algernon?" I said, "Sure." And he said he had a different kind of a maze, made of wood, with rows scratched in it, and an electric stick like a pencil. And he could fix up Algernon's maze to be the same, like that one, so we could both be doing the same kind. He moved all the boards around on Algernon's table, because they come apart, and he could put them together in different ways. And then he put the screen back on top, so Algernon wouldn't jump over any rows to get to the finish. Then he gave me the electric stick and showed me how to put it in between the rows, and I'm not supposed to lift it off the board, just follow the little scratches until the pencil can't move anymore, or I get a little shock. He took out his clock, and he was trying to hide it, so I tried not to look at him, and that made me very nervous. When he said, "Go," I tried to go, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know the way to take. Then I heard Algernon squeaking from the box on the table, and his feet scratching like he was running already. I started to go, but I went in the wrong way and got stuck, and a little shock in my fingers, so I went back to the start. But every time I went a different way, I got stuck, and a shock. It didn't hurt or anything, just made me jump a little, and Bert said it was to show me I did the wrong thing. I was halfway on the board when I heard Algernon squeak like he was happy again, and that means he won the race. And the other 10 times we did it over, Algernon won every time, because I couldn't find the right rows to get to where it says finish. I didn't feel bad, because I watched Algernon, and I learned how to finish the maze, even if it takes me a long time. I didn't know mice were so smart. Progress Report 5, March 6. They found my sister Norma, who lives with my mother in Brooklyn, and she gave permission for the operation. So they're going to use me. I'm so excited I can hardly write it down. But then Professor Niemer and Dr. Strauss had an argument about it first. I was sitting in Professor Niemer's office when Dr. Strauss and Bert Selden came in. Professor Niemer was worried about using me, but Dr. Strauss told him I looked like the best one they tested so far. Bert told him Miss Kinnian recommended me the best from all the people who she was teaching at the Center for Retarded Adults, where I go. Dr. Strauss said I had something that was very good. He said I had a good motivation. I never even knowed I had that. I felt good when he said not everybody with an IQ of 68 had that thing like I had it. I don't know what it is, or where I got it, but he said Algernon had it too. Algernon's motivation is the cheese they put in his box. But it can't be only that, because I didn't have no cheese this week. Professor Niemer was worried about my IQ getting too high from mine that was too low, and I would get sick from it. And Dr. Strauss told Professor Niemer something I didn't understand, so while they was talking, I wrote down some of the words in my notebook for keeping my progress reports. He said, "Harold," that's Professor Niemer's first name, "I know Charlie is not what you had in mind as the first of your new breed of couldn't get the word, Superman. But most people of his low are host and uncoop. They're usually dull and apathetic and hard to reach. Charlie has a good nature, and he's interested and eager to please." Then Professor Niemer said, "Remember, he will be the first human being ever to have his intelligence increased by surgery." Dr. Strauss said, "That's exactly what I meant. Where will we find another retarded adult with this tremendous motivation to learn? Look how well he has learned to read and write for his low mental age. A I didn't get all the words, and they were talking too fast, but it sounded like Dr. Strauss and Bert was on my side, and Professor Niemer wasn't. Bert kept saying, "Alice Kinnian feels he has an overwhelmed desire to learn. He actually begged to be used, and that's true because I wanted to be smart." Dr. Strauss got up and walked around and said, "I say we use Charlie." And Bert nodded. Professor Niemer scratched his head and rubbed his nose with his thumb and said, "Maybe you're right. We will use Charlie. But we've got to make him understand that a lot of things can go wrong with the experiment." When he said that, I got so happy and excited, I jumped up and shaked his hand for being so good to me. I think he got scared when I did that. He said, "Charlie, we worked on this for a long time, but only on animals like Algernon. We are sure there's no physical danger for you, but there are other things we can't tell until we try it. I want you to understand this might fail, and then nothing would happen at all. Or it might even succeed temporary and leave you worse off than you are now. Do you understand what that means? If that happens, we will have to send you back to the Warren State Home to live." I said I didn't care because I ain't afraid of nothing. I'm very strong and I always do good, and beside, I got my lucky rabbit's foot and I never breaked a mirror in my life. I dropped some dishes once, but that don't count for bad luck. Then Dr. Strauss said, "Charlie, even if this fails, you're making a great contribution to science. This experiment has been successful on lots of animals, but it's never been tried on a human being. You will be the first." I told him, "Thanks, Doc. You won't be sorry for giving me my second chance like Miss Kinnian says." And I mean it like I told them. After the operation, I'm gonna try to be smart. I'm gonna try awful hard. Progress Report 6th, March 8. I'm scared. Lots of people who work at the college and the people at the medical school came to wish me luck. Bert, the tester, brought me some flowers. He said they were from the people at the psych department. He wished me luck. I hope I have luck. I got my rabbit's foot and my lucky penny and my horseshoe. Dr. Strauss said, "Don't be so superstitious, Charlie. This is science." I don't know what science is, but they all keep saying it, so maybe it's something that helps you have good luck. Anyway, I'm keeping my rabbit's foot in one hand and my lucky penny in the other hand with the hole in it. The penny, I mean. I wish I could take the horseshoe with me, too, but it's heavy, so I'll just leave it in my jacket. Joe Carp from the bakery brought me a chocolate cake from Mr. Donner and the folks at the bakery, and they hope I get better soon. At the bakery, they think I'm sick, because that's what Professor Niemer said I should tell them, and nothing about an operation for getting smart. That's a secret until after, in case it don't work or something goes wrong. Then Miss Kinnian came to see me, and she brought me some magazines to read, and she looked kind of nervous and scared. She fixed up the flowers on my table and put everything nice and neat, not messed up like I made it. And she fixed the pillow under my head. She likes me a lot, because I try very hard to learn everything, not like some of the people at the adult center who don't really care. She wants me to get smart, I know. Then Professor Niemer said I can't have any more visitors because I got a rest. I asked Professor Niemer if I could beat Algernon in the race after the operation, and he said maybe. If the operation works good, I'll show that mouse I can be as smart as he is, even smarter. Then I'll be able to read better and spell the words good and know lots of things and be like other people. Boy, that would surprise everyone. If the operation works and I get smart, maybe I'll be able to find my mom and dad and sister and show them. Boy, would they be surprised to see me smart, just like them and my sister. Professor Niemer says if it works good and it's permanent, they will make other people like me smart also. Maybe people all over the world. And, he said, that means I'm doing something great for science, and I'll be famous, and my name will go down in the books. I don't care so much about being famous. I just want to be smart like other people, so I can have lots of friends who like me. They didn't give me anything to eat today. I don't know what eating got to do with getting smart, and I'm hungry. Professor Niemer took away my chocolate cake. That Professor Niemer is a grouch. Dr. Strauss says I can have it back after the operation. You can't eat before an operation. Not even cheese. Progress Report 7, March 11. The operation didn't hurt. Dr. Strauss did it while I was sleeping. I don't know how, because I didn't see, but there was bandages on my eyes and my head for 3 days, so I couldn't make no progress report till today. The skinny nurse who watched me writing says I spelled progress wrong, and she told me how to spell it, and report too, and march. I gotta remember that. I have a very bad memory for spelling. Anyway, they took off the bandages from my eyes today, so I can make a progress report now. But there is still some bandages on my head. I was scared when they came in and told me it was time to go for the operation. They made me get out of the bed and on another bed that has wheels on it, and they rolled me out of the room and down the hall to the door that says surgery. Boy, was I surprised that it was a big room with green walls and lots of doctors sitting around up high, all around the room, watching the operation. I didn't know it was going to be like a show. A man came up to the table all in white and with a white cloth on his face, like in TV shows, and rubber gloves, and he said, "Relax, Charlie. It's me, Dr. Strauss." I said, "Hi, Doc. I'm scared." He said, "There's nothing to be scared about, Charlie," he said. "You'll just go to sleep." I said, "That's what I'm scared about." He patted my head, and then 2 other men, wearing white masks too, came and strapped my arms and legs down so I couldn't move them. And that made me very scared, and my stomach felt tight, like I was going to make all over, but I didn't, only wet a little. And I was going to cry, but they put a rubber thing on my face for me to breathe in, and it smelled funny. All the time I heard Dr. Strauss talking out loud about the operation, telling everybody what he was going to do. But I didn't understand anything about it, and I was thinking, maybe after the operation I'll be smart and I'll understand all the things he's talking about. So I breathed deep, and then I guess I was very tired, because I went to sleep. When I waked up, I was back in my bed, and it was very dark. I couldn't see nothing, but I heard some talking. It was the nurse and Bert, and I said, "What's the matter? Why don't you put on the lights, and when are they going to operate?" And they laughed, and Bert said, "Charlie, it's all over, and it's dark because you got bandages over your eyes." It's a funny thing. They did it while I was sleeping. Bert comes in to see me every day to write down all the things, like my temperature and my blood pressure and the other things about me. He says it's on account of the scientific method. They got to keep records about what happens so they can do it again when they want to. Not to me, but to the other people like me who ain't smart. That's why I got to do these progress reports. Bert says it's part of the experiment, and they will make photostats of the reports to study them, so they'll know what is going on in my mind. I don't see how they will know what is going on in my mind by looking at these reports. I read them over and over a lot of times to see what I wrote, and I don't know what's going on in my mind, so how are they going to? But anyway, that's science, and I gotta try to be smart like other people. Then, when I am smart, they'll talk to me, and I can sit with them and listen, like Joe Carp and Frank and Gimpy do when they talk and have a discussion about important things. While they're working, they start talking about things, like about God, or about the trouble with all the money the president is spending, or about the Republicans and Democrats, and they get all excited like they're going to have a fight, so Mr. Donner got to come in and tell them to get back to baking, or they'll all get canned, union or no union. I want to talk about things like that. If you're smart, you can have lots of friends to talk to, and you never get lonely by yourself all the time. Professor Niemer says it's okay to tell about all the things that happened to me in the progress reports, but he says I should write more about what I feel and what I think and remember about the past. I told him, I don't know how to think or remember, and he said just try. All the time the bandages were on my eyes, I tried to think and remember, but nothing happened. I don't know what to think or remember about. Maybe if I ask him, he'll tell me how I can think now that I'm supposed to get smart. What do smart people think about or remember? Fancy things, I bet. I wish I knew some fancy things already. March 12. I don't have to write progress report on top every day, just when I start a new batch, after Professor Niemer takes the old ones away. I just have to put the date on top. That saves time. It's a good idea. I can sit up in bed and look out the window at the grass and trees outside. The skinny nurse's name is Hilda, and she's very good to me. She brings me things to eat, and she fixes my bed, and she says I was a very brave man to let them do things to my head. She says she would never let them do things to her brains for all the tea in China. I told her it wasn't for tea in China, it was to make me smart. And she said, maybe they got no right to make me smart, because if God wanted me to be smart, he would have made me born that way, And what about Adam and Eve, and the sin with the tree of knowledge, and eating the apple, and the fall, and maybe Professor Niemer and Dr. Strauss was tampering with things they got no right to tamper with? She's very skinny, and when she talks her face gets all red. She says maybe I better pray to God to ask him to forgive what they done to me. I didn't eat no apples, or do nothing sinful. And now I'm scared. Maybe I shouldn't have let them operate on my brains like she said if it's against God. I don't want to make God angry. March 13. They changed my nurse today. This one is pretty. Her name is Lucille. She showed me how to spell it from my progress report, and she got yellow hair and blue eyes. I asked her, where was Hilda? And she said Hilda wasn't working in that part of the hospital no more. Only in the maternity ward by the babies, where it don't matter if she talks too much. When I asked her about what was maternity, she said it's about having babies. But when I asked her how they have them, she got red in the face, just the same like Hilda, and she said she got to take somebody's temperature. Nobody ever tells me about the babies. Maybe if this thing works and I get smart, I'll find out. Miss Kinnian came to see me today, and she said, "Charlie, you look wonderful." I told her, "I feel fine, but I don't feel smart yet." I thought that when the operation was over and they took the bandages off my eyes, I'd be smart and know a lot of things so I could read and talk about important things like everybody else. She said, "That's not the way it works, Charlie. It comes slowly, and you have to work very hard to get smart." I didn't know that. If I got to work hard anyway, what did I have to have the operation for? She said she wasn't sure, but the operation was to make it so that when I did work hard to get smart, it would stick with me, and not be like it was before when it didn't stick so good. Well, I told her that made me kind of feel bad, because I thought I was going to be smart right away, and I could go back to show the guys at the bakery how smart I am, and talk with them about things, and maybe even get to be an assistant baker. Then I was going to try and find my mom and dad. They'd be surprised to see how smart I got, because my mom always wanted me to be smart too. Maybe they wouldn't send me away no more if they see how smart I am. I told Miss Kinnian I would try hard to be smart, as hard as I can. She patted my hand and said, "I know you will. I have faith in you, Charlie." Progress Report 8. March 15. I'm out of the hospital, but not back at work yet. Nothing is happening. I had lots of tests and different kinds of races with Algernon. I hate that mouse. He always beats me. Professor Niemer says I gotta play those games and I gotta take those tests over and over again. Those amazes are stupid, and those pictures are stupid too. I like to draw the pictures of a man and woman, but I won't make up lies about people. And I can't do the puzzles good. I get headaches from trying to think and remember so much. Dr. Strauss promised he was going to help me, but he don't. He don't tell me what to think or when I'll get smart. He just makes me lay down on a couch and talk. Miss Kinnian comes to see me at the college, too. I told her nothing was happening. When am I going to get smart? She said, "You got to be patient, Charlie. These things take time. It will happen so slowly you won't know it's happening." She said Bert told her I was coming along fine. I still think those races and those tests are stupid, and I think writing these progress reports are stupid too. March 16. I ate lunch with Bert at the college restaurant. They get all kinds of good food, and I don't have to pay for it neither. I like to sit and watch the college boys and girls. They fool around sometimes, but mostly they talk about all kinds of things, just like the bakers do at Donner's Bakery. Bert says it's about art and politics and religion. I don't know what those things are about, but I know religion is God. Mom used to tell me all about him and the things he'd done to make the world. She said I should always love God and pray to him. I don't remember how to pray to him, but I think Mom used to make me pray to him a lot when I was a kid, that he should make me get better and not be sick. I don't remember how I was sick. I think it was about me not being smart. Anyway, Bert says if the experiment works, I'll be able to understand all those things the students are talking about. And I said, "Do you think I'll be smart like them?" And he laughed and said, "Those kids aren't so smart. You'll pass them as if they're standing still." He introduced me to a lot of the students, and some of them look at me funny, like I don't belong in a college. I almost forgot and started to tell them I was going to be very smart soon, like them, but Bert interrupted, and he told them I was cleaning the psych department lab. Later, he explained to me there mustn't be any publicity. That means it's a secret. I don't really understand why I gotta keep it a secret. Bert says it's in case there's a failure. Professor Niemer don't want everybody to laugh, especially the people from the Wellberg Foundation, who gave him the money for the project. I said, I don't care if people laugh at me. Lots of people laugh at me, and they're my friends, and we have fun. Bert put his arm on my shoulder and said, "It's not you Niemer's worried about. He don't want people to laugh at him." I didn't think people would laugh at Professor Niemer, because he's a scientist in a college. But Bert said, "No scientist is a great man to his colleagues and his graduate students." Bert is a graduate student, and he is a major in psychology, like the name on the door to the lab. I didn't know they had majors in college. I thought it was only in the Army. Anyway, I hope I get smart soon, because I want to learn everything there is in the world, like the college boys know, all about art and politics and God.